Hi, very good evening and welcome to the special edition of Thai PBS World Tonight. I'm Nabunag.
I'm Tulip Naksompoplao, and as you can see, it's look totally different from normal.
Yeah.
We are in the same frame, and behind us is not just a wall anymore. It's actually the beach live at Phuket. We are at the Patong Beach, and this is actually look different from Patong Beach that people usually see in the normal situation. Because of COVID-19, it has been fairly quiet.
Exactly, but it's still beautiful, isn't it? And it's the scene that we don't get to see really often because Patong Beach is usually fully packed with foreign tourists, including locals. But this time round, we barely see any of the tourists here at all.
Yeah. And if you're wondering what is Sandbox, we are here because tomorrow is the D-Day of Sandbox, and we have some information about Sandbox to explain to you.
Exactly, and with tomorrow being the D-Day of Phuket's reopening to foreign tourists, we will be giving you a recap of what Phuket Sandbox is all about and what you really need to know about this scheme. So Phuket Sandbox is the initiative to reopen the resort island to international visitors with no quarantine needed. May I repeat? No quarantine needed. And visitors still have to be fully vaccinated and they must pass a virus test after arriving at the airport. Foreign travelers planning a trip to Phuket must get certificates of entry from Thai embassies or consulates and register through this website www.entrythailand.go.th.
So upon arrival, they will have to undergo normal immigration procedures, install the Mochana contact tracing app, English version is available, and Thailand Plus app, and take a COVID-19 test. They can then check into the SHA Plus certified hotel, the local we call it Cha Plus. And as soon as the test come back negative, they can leave the hotel and travel anywhere on Phuket.
And foreign tourists who book a long stay will be required to take another COVID-19 test on the 6th or the 7th day of their stay and a third test on the day 12th or 13th of their stay. And after 14 days and 3 negative tests, they can travel to any other parts of Thailand. However, if they spend fewer than 2 weeks in Phuket, they must leave through a direct flight only.
Yes, but there are still a few things to keep in mind. First of all, the number of people vaccinated in Phuket. Although Phuket has the highest percentage compared to other provinces in Thailand, with up to 70% of its population that receive at least the first dose, less than half have had their second dose. This means that they are not fully inoculated against hospitalization caused by the virus and its variants yet.
Another thing we have to keep in mind is that the number of new infections are still increasing in Thailand. Therefore, there have been concerns that the Phuket Sandbox may carry significant risks. So authorities have drawn up guidelines on danger signals that should trigger action. For example, if the scheme will be curbed, suspended, or canceled if the number of new infections in the province rises above 90 per week, if the infections are reported in all of the districts of Phuket or more than 6 sub-districts, if there are more than 3 clusters of infections, and if COVID-19 spreads widely, if the hospital bed occupancy rate rises over 80%, and if a variant spreads uncontrollably.
So authorities can impose 4 measures in response to these danger signals. Reduce tourist activities, use sealed routes for tourists, implement hotel quarantine, or cancel the Phuket Sandbox altogether. This will depend on how serious the situation becomes. But as we talked to the governor just several days ago, the governor said that right now they are focused on how to prevent Phuket from having to close again after this reopening.
Exactly, and recently the Thai government has also finalized the requirements of the entry of fully vaccinated foreign tourists as well as Thai returnees without entering quarantine through the Phuket Sandbox project. So according to the announcement that is published by the Royal Gazette yesterday, the requirements are avoid high COVID-19 risk and communal areas for 40 days prior to arrival. And apart from this, they should also come from a list of permitted countries or territories and have stayed in that particular country for at least 21 days before arrival, with the exception of those who are returning and having departed from Thailand to one of the permitted countries.
So there are 63 countries and 3 territories deemed at low to medium risk of COVID-19 spread, which are on the permitted list. Low-risk areas, according to the Public Health Ministry, as of mid-June, are Albania, Andorra, Antigua, Barbuda, Austria, Australia, Azerbaijan, Barbados, Brunei, Cambodia, Croatia, Cyprus, Czech Republic, Dominica, Hong Kong, Iceland, Israel, Luxembourg, Macau, Malta, Monaco, Morocco, Mauritius, right?
Yep.
New Zealand, Norway, Qatar, San Marino, Singapore, Slovenia, Taiwan, and Vietnam.
And those who wish to travel to Phuket, they must also register themselves upon arrival at entrythailand.go.th. And they also must present a certificate of entry or COE. So the registration for this one is available at coethailand.mfa.go.th. And they should also present a medical certificate issued no more than 72 hours before departure, indicating the result of a laboratory RT-PCR test showing that COVID-19 was not detected.
They have to have travel insurance with health and COVID-19 coverage for the entire stay in Thailand, worth at least $100,000 US. They have to have evidence of a SHA Plus hotel prepaid booking for at least 14 days and return flight tickets for those who stay in Thailand fewer than 14 days. It has to be in 14 days because the requirement is you have to stay at the same hotel on Phuket Island for 14 days. So they have to have certificate of vaccination with 2 full doses or 1 dose if it's Johnson & Johnson. It should no less than 14 days before departure. The vaccine must be approved by Thailand's Food and Drug Administration and or the World Health Organization for emergency use.
And most importantly, they must also stay on the island for at least 14 days before being allowed to travel elsewhere in Thailand. And those staying in Thailand for fewer than 14 days are not allowed to travel elsewhere within the country.
But now it's come to question though, whether Phuket locals are ready for Sandbox. We know that 80% of the income of this island depend on the tourism industry. So in the past 1 year, it has been quite turbulent for Phuket locals. And now today, we went out on the island and asked several people what do they think about this Sandbox scheme. Now let's take a listen. Niên đường là nạt khóc.
ตอนนี้เรามีความยินดีมากที่ได้ข่าวตัวของ Phuket Sandbox นะคะเพราะเราก็เตรียมพร้อมเต็มที่ตั้งแต่โควิด1 2 3มานะคะครั้งนี้
คาดหวังไม่มากเท่าไหร่เพราะว่ามันไม่มีอะไรแน่นอนนะคะเพราะว่าถ้าสมมติมีลูกค้าหรือว่าชาวต่างชาติเข้ามาเยอะว่าแล้วก็อาจจะแบบแพร่เชื้อโรคแบบมีโควิดมากขึ้นก็อาจจะทำให้ปิดประเทศได้อีกครั้งหนึ่งอะค่ะ
ก็ดีใจนะคะดีใจมากเลยก็หวังว่าอาจจะไม่ถึงกับว่ากลับมาเหมือนเดิมอีกครั้งแต่ว่าอย่างน้อยก็ดีขึ้นบ้างอะค่ะแต่ก็ยังเป็นห่วงอยู่ว่าถ้ารับนักท่องเที่ยวมาแล้วเนี่ยเชื้อมันแบบจะกลายเป็นว่ามันจะรุนแรงทวีคูณหรือเปล่าก็ยังพะวงตรงนี้ค่ะ
ผมว่าถ้าเปิดได้มันก็ดีมันจะได้พอมีคนมั่งมันจะได้กระตุ้นเศรษฐกิจให้มันดีฟื้นขึ้นมามั่งดูแล้วไม่มีคนจะเดินเลยอ่ะตาตองอ่ะสุดยอดเลย
แต่พี่ว่าเวลาที่เรารับนักท่องเที่ยวเข้ามาเขาก็คือมาพักตามโรงแรมพอมาพักตามโรงแรมปั๊บมีการช็อปมีการใช้จ่ายก็คือพนักงานโรงแรมก็มีเงินที่จะมาซื้อของเราซึ่งมันเหมือนเป็นวัฏจักรมันเหมือนเป็นวงเวียนว่าพอเข้ามาตามโรงแรมปั๊บพนักงานโรงแรมก็มีรายได้พนักงานโรงแรมมีรายได้ทุกคนมีรายได้พวกเราก็ปล่อยมีรายได้ไปด้วย
ดีใจมากเลยค่ะดีใจมากก็น่าจะดีขึ้นมาอีกระดับหนึ่งเพราะว่าตอนนี้คือพอร้านปิด ลูกค้าไม่มี แต่ถ้าเปิดแล้วก็คือความเราก็รู้สึกดีใจนะคะถ้าเกิดมีลูกค้าเข้ามาจริงๆ
ก็รู้สึกก็โอเคค่ะก็อยากให้มันกลับมาเหมือนก่อนหน้านี้ร้านแบบนี้มันส่วนมากจะเป็นนักท่องเที่ยวมันจะเป็นฝรั่งส่วนมากเป็นนักท่องเที่ยวจากต่างชาติถ้าพอเปิดให้เข้ามานักท่องเที่ยวเข้ามามันก็ทำให้แบบมันก็กลับมาดีเหมือนเดิมได้
Enthusiastic about the sandbox scheme, and from what we talked to the governor, the start tomorrow, we might not see the rise of bookings and confirmation right away, but he believes that in the middle of June 15, we're starting to see more and more bookings and more tourists coming here because it's already announced in Royal Gazette, all the conditions and restrictions has been very clear now.
Exactly, and after we've been talking to many of the locals, they all want to reopen this resort island because many people have been suffering during the pandemic, whether it's lower income, having to lay off their staff. So they believe that reopening the resort island to foreign tourists will help increase their income and get more customers as well. And although many people are really excited about the reopening, there are many groups of people who sort of disagree with the Sandbox project. And there are two public surveys that prove that people are still quite uncertain about Phuket Sandbox. The first one is Bangkok poll, which shows that 40% of the respondents do not agree with the Phuket Sandbox initiative. Their concerns focus on fear that tourists may not fully comply with the initiative's measures and the fact that many locals in Phuket have yet to be fully vaccinated. Another survey is NIDA Poll Opinion Survey, which conducted last week. It found that 52.6% thought the risk was too high and demanded that the government take full responsibility if reopening worsened the COVID-19 crisis. However, only 9% agreed with taking the risk and said they would not blame the government for any adverse impacts of the reopening. Of the 1,300 respondents, around 69% said they prioritized health, even if that meant having to struggle with financial difficulties during the pandemic. Due to the pandemic, both surveys were conducted around the time the Royal College of Physicians voiced caution about the government's reopening policy. As we previously reported, Prime Minister General Prayut Chan-o-cha vowed to fully reopen Thailand within 4 months. The Phuket Sandbox is therefore the pilot project to kickstart that process for the tourism industry. More popular tourist destinations will follow the suit if it proves a success. So starting from Samui, Phangan, and Tao Islands in Surat Thani from July 15th. For this, foreign travelers will be able to visit the resort islands within a shortened or flexible quarantine period. So instead of having to go through a 14-day quarantine, visitors who are fully vaccinated and test negative upon arrival in Samui will be able to travel along the sealed routes from their 4th day, and from the 8th day onward, they can roam around the islands freely.
So I would say if this thing goes well, it's going to be a really good start, a really new hope for the tourism industry, for a lot of tourism town in Thailand.
Definitely.
Now, let's see the statistic a little bit, because today we just got confirmation from the governor of the Tourism Authority of Thailand, Yuttasak Supasorn, of how many exactly tourists will already confirm that will land here tomorrow. The 4 international flights will be Etihad Airways, scheduled at 10 a.m., and then Qatar Airways at 1:30 p.m., and then we have El Al Israel Airlines at 1:45, Singapore Airlines at 5 p.m. Estimated at 400 to 500 foreign travelers will arrive tomorrow at the airport. It's also confirmed that a flight from Emirates will land in Phuket on Friday, which is June the 2nd, while Thai Airways will have flights to Phuket from Frankfurt, Copenhagen, and Zurich this weekend. So it seems like going to be pretty busy first 4 days. So there are now 217 hotel bookings from July 1st have been confirmed. 1,101 hotel bookings with a total of over 13,000 rooms have been booked so far, with one person having an average stay of 12 nights. So this look promising. This is a really good number, I would say. I mean, we are not sure at first how much we're gonna get, but like we said, Phuket people is ready, and they hope that it's gonna bring them some more people, some life back to Phuket Island.
It's definitely a good sign right here. And now let's move on to another story where the locals have reflected how they've been affected by the COVID-19. Although there are many hotels, restaurants, and many tourism-related businesses that have been hard hit by the pandemic, another tourism-related business that have been highly affected by COVID-19 are speedboats, particularly boats that offer diving classes. Thai PBS World recently talked to the owner of Local Dive Thailand, Ruthaiwan Chakrapong, who revealed that they have been highly affected, especially during the first outbreak, as they heavily relied on foreign tourists. She said that around 95% of her customers came from Western countries, including some from Singapore, Hong Kong, and China. However, after the 3-month lockdown last year, she had to quickly change her target group to local tourists instead. So let's have a listen to what she had to say.
Really badly because it's now over a year and a half, right? So financially affected because less customers, yeah, and also so some period we have to shut down because of the lockdown and stuff. So it's been really hard on that one, and also mentally exhausted for business owner because we have to adapt and we don't know what's going to happen. Things change all the time.
Feel that before the pandemic, they could offer diving classes every day with up to 10 boats running, with PP Islands being the most popular route besides Ratchayai Island and King Cruiser routes. After the pandemic, she said that the boat rides have now been reduced to only 3 boats for the weekend. And regarding the Phuket Sandbox, like we just mentioned earlier, she admits that she has high hopes for the scheme, as it means that foreign tourists will be able to return and help revive her business. However, as the country is still in the 3rd wave of the pandemic, she becomes quite uncertain whether the sandbox model will be successful.
Before the 3rd wave, let's say we have a really high hope. We were thinking that, everyone will come here and a travel tourist business will be booming again and people really want to go diving and everything. So we have a lot of hopes and we really want Phuket Sandbox to open. We're still in the 3rd wave or even the 4th wave. I'm not sure what the tourists in other country will think it is safe enough to come to Thailand. I still have a lot of inquiries asking how they're going to get into Phuket. There's trouble with the COE thing, they're still unclear of with this the business register in this Char Plus and things. I'm not sure if other country looking if they separate between Phuket Sandbox or Thailand, because as I see in the news, Thailand now become red list in some country, because of the number of the patients and the infection rates and stuff. So in that part, we're not really sure.
Including the locals we've talked to today, everyone is ready for the Phuket Sandbox project and welcoming the foreign tourists because they strongly believe that it will help revive the businesses as well as the economy in general.
So one of the factors that make people feel that Phuket is ready is the percentage of people inoculated on this island and how enthusiastic people are to cooperate with the authority. So there's a lot of expat and foreigners on Phuket Island, and this is actually one of the, I would say, issues with expat in other provinces, especially in Bangkok, that a lot of them cannot get confirmation for their vaccine.
Right.
But expat in Phuket actually have a different kind of experience. Today earlier we have a chance to talk to the co-founder of a startup company in Phuket about how they get informed about their vaccination. So one of them already got their first dose of AstraZeneca and another one waiting for the confirmation. So now let's take a listen.
I'm lucky to have, a Thai partner, so she's really well connected and she gave me the news, but I also saw it online through the local news that I'm following. So I knew the government had this campaign, Phuket Win. So I went on the website, registered, it was in English, and then the system gave me an appointment. So I was pleased to know that they were offering AstraZeneca, which I am a little bit more confident in, rather than Sinovac, but it's just a personal preference. And once I got on site, everything was actually well organized. And I know it's hard to gather, a large amount of people during such situation, but all the distances were kept, and it actually went fine.
As an expat, I'm a dad, so I have kids in international schools, and in Phuket, the international school keep the parents very well informed about all this, obviously because of the kids and the teachers and so on. So I'm not vaccinated yet, I'm on the list, I'm waiting. I think next week I will be called to get the vaccine. But all the education system in Phuket is very well organized to communicate about the vaccine, and I guess they get the information from the government. The difficulty is that because social media is everywhere, you see everybody's opinion everywhere. And sometimes it's difficult to know if one newspaper says this and another one says this and some group on Facebook or on social media says this. It's difficult to know what is true or not, what is good info. It's very difficult to... There is a lot of information, but it's difficult to know which one is the correct one. But I guess this is the same everywhere, not only in Thailand. So when it's something like a pandemic, to be able to get the right information is not easy for a private person because there is so much on social media.
And that's all the news we have for you in this edition of Thai PBS World Tonight. We have to thank Noodle Beach Club for letting us use the location. Very beautiful location, very nice sandy beach in the backdrop. We really love it here. And we're still here tomorrow, but we'll be in a different location on Phuket Island.
And it will be definitely exciting for all of you watching at Thai PBS World Tonight Facebook Live as well. So we'll be here tomorrow once again at 5:30 p.m. So don't forget to check out on Facebook Live, as we will be giving you the latest updates on the Phuket Sandbox as well as other news as well. And that wraps up tonight's edition of Thai PBS World Tonight. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. I will see you tomorrow. สวัสดีค่ะ